Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome to Watch This Now. The Invisible Man is the latest Universal Monsters reboot. This time, writer-director Leigh Whannell, one of the creative forces behind the Saw and Insidious franchises, takes this on, and the twist on the classic concept is that we aren't just focusing on the Invisible Man, but a woman the Invisible Man is terrorizing. In this movie, Elisabeth Moss stars as Cecilia, a woman who escapes an abusive relationship with an abusive but really hot man who is also a tech genius. I mean, I'm not judging her, but have you seen this man? Cecilia makes a late night escape and she goes and moves in with a friend played by Aldous Hodge, a cop who is a single father of a teenage daughter played by Storm Reed. And there Cecilia tries to put her life back together. But then she learns that Adrian, the guy she left, he committed suicide. So this basically feels like your typical Blumhouse production haunted house horror film, except our main character knows immediately, now this isn't a ghost, this is an invisible man. Well, you guys, we have really paid our dues. After a string of shitty horror films that have come out over the first couple months of this year, we finally have a good one. And I have plenty to talk about when it comes to the behind-the-scenes stuff involving this movie, so I'm going to save that for another video and just talk about this movie because it's easily one of the most entertaining movies that has come out in 2020, and it has some problems, so we should probably talk about them. But first I want to talk about what works in this film, because it's really a two-hander between writer-director Leigh Whannell and star Elisabeth Moss. This movie works for the most part because of Moss's performance. She might be a crazy-ass Scientologist, but she's great in this movie, and I'm gonna call it right now. She is going to be this year's Lupita Nyong'o in Us or Toni Collette in Hereditary. Every year we're bound to get a movie that has a great female performance that is just gonna get ignored by the Academy, which whatever, but Elisabeth Moss has been doing such great work over the last decade on television, so hopefully this is the mark of her transition to film. She deserves it. She's so good. What's unfortunate is that her character really isn't that great. Most of Cecilia is really about what's happening around her. We don't end up learning a whole lot about her, and in fact, if it wasn't for a capable actress like Elisabeth Moss, this character wouldn't seem that interesting. However, you care about her and you're on board with her because, one, the movie is designed to make you. It's like, how can you not? She's this abused woman. Of course you want her to get out of this situation okay. But it's really Moss's performance that really drives that home and actually makes you care about Cecilia, especially come the end. I know I'm late on this one. I'm way too late. So it's like, if you've already seen it, you know what I mean by the end of this movie. And I can't give Leigh Whannell credit enough. I am just so happy for him. Just as a creative, I just think, he started out with Saw. That came out 16 years ago. Can you believe that? We're all really old. But anyway, he has done some really good things, from Insidious Chapter 3, which is my personal favorite, the third one, and he also did Upgrade. If you haven't seen that, well, if you do, you'll be able to easily see why he got this movie, because he does such a good job blowing up the scale of this film. It really has a small budget, but it feels like a big movie, and the twists and turns of it, oh boy, we're gonna get into that. But what works so well is his execution, because there are so many scenes that are just so well done, I couldn't help but be sucked into it. There is one scene in particular, I don't want to talk about that much, but I know it's mostly already spoiled. I personally saw this scene play out in a trailer, and I was a little bummed that it was spoiled, but it plays so well in the movie that I didn't care. The scene with the paint, you know what I'm talking about? The way that actually plays out in the film, I still jumped, and I knew it was going to happen, but the way that it plays, it's just so good, and that's pure direction. That is solid execution above all, so we have to give the credit where it's due. However, because Whannell also wrote the film, he also has to deal with most of the problems, which, hey, for the most part, he did good. And listen, I guess you'd rather have a good director over a bad director, because like a bad director can ruin a good script and a good director can improve a mediocre one. This one sadly is a tad mediocre because there are some straight up problems. Again, our main character isn't fleshed out enough, and as I described her situation, she moves in with a friend. We don't even really know that. Like, you could probably, for a little bit in this movie, confuse Aldous Hodge for, like, a new boyfriend character, which is what I thought was going to happen, and I was going to be like, you know, Elisabeth Moss, I get it, you're all traumatized, but you moved on mighty fast. And I like the idea of show don't tell in your film. That's one thing that's played out really well here. However, there are some things that just straight up needed to be told to us. Like, again, going back to the character of Cecilia, at one point she goes on a job interview, and at that point we learn that she's an architect, and you go, oh, cool, that's great, you have something going for you. However, we only learn that in the moment, and it really doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just a bummer. You don't actually know much about Cecilia, except for what university she went to, and the fact that she was abused a whole bunch. We also just have to talk about some of the straight-up logistical errors with this film, because the whole thing is designed around the idea of, what if you were being stalked and tormented, not by a ghost, but by a person who is invisible? Like our bad guy, Adrian, he fakes his suicide to then go invisible, to haunt Cecilia, and it's just like, wouldn't it actually be a little bit more interesting if he didn't fake his death, and the world didn't think that he was dead, and she thought that he was in her room or, you know, in the shower with her and all that freaky stuff, but he actually then, like, FaceTimes her and is like, no, you want me to stay away, I'm totally away and not haunting you at night. And then some of the actions that the Invisible Man does, you just, by the end you look back and you go, that was just dumb. Like, why on earth would you go through the trouble of becoming invisible and then doing these things? Like, I will only say this as a mild spoiler. I only say this because it's in the trailers, like, and I know that I'm going to be playing this clip, but at one point, she does end up in a facility, locked up, and the Invisible Man locks himself up with her. Like, why would you do that? Wouldn't you just be like, oh, cool, I got you into the madhouse, and now I'm gonna come back once they, bring you out for Jell-O and checkers. But instead he's like, I'm gonna be locked in this room with you so that I can torment you while she's medically sedated. Like, it's stupid. It's like, why would anyone do that? There's a lot of stuff like that that just has me going, why? Like, it's a 2-hour movie, and then things aren't fleshed out enough, and then there are things that are just, like, way too involved with itself, where you're like, wait, why did we have to do that? What I do really like about this movie is that it does have plenty of surprises. This movie was very surprising, and I will say, although it thematically has plenty of issues, on the entertainment scale, this is like the best movie of the year so far. There are things I just did not see coming. They came out of nowhere, but genuinely shocked me in a good way. It's like I can't even talk about it. I have to suppress. I don't want to say anything else remotely spoilery, but if you've already seen it, you know what scenes I'm talking. I mean, there are straight up deaths that come out of nowhere. I mean, people are not safe in this movie. You are not safe. The Invisible Man is everywhere all the time. I have really complicated feelings on this one because I think it's a really good time. Like, this is a good time at the movies. It has this excellent slow burn for its first half hour as we get into things. And then, all of a sudden, we end up hitting this sequence of events where we ping pong from one thing to the next, and it isn't just stuff happening at you, it really pushes the story forward and brings you on this journey with our main character, and I really like that, and I certainly like where this movie ended. Overall, The Invisible Man is a really entertaining film with good performances, some solid special effects, and decent scares. There were a couple that really, there's that one that had me, I audibly was like, oh! I'm gonna give The Invisible Man a 3.5 out of 5. It's not perfect, but I can say this is easily the best horror film of 2020 so far. I mean, That's not saying a whole lot, but this is definitely worth your time. I would so say go see this in theaters. Grab a friend, grab a loved one. I'm gonna make my friend who hates horror films go see this because she keeps dating a bunch of assholes, so I think she needs to see this movie. But what did you guys think of The Invisible Man? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I feel like I have so much to talk about this movie. Like, I could just be rambling for an hour, so I'm kind of sorry that this video is as long as it is and I only covered as much as I did, but I mean, thanks again for watching. Feel free to like, share this video with your friends, subscribe to watch this now, and that's it for this video, but I'm not going to stop you from watching another.